subtitled by Jacobo. Today I'm going to teach you the forbidden ritual to break any addiction. For years, they told you that an addiction is simply a lack of willpower, that if you really wanted to quit, you would, that it all comes down to discipline, character, control. But if that were true, millions of people wouldn't be trapped in the same cycle. Promises that last a day, decisions that fall apart, and that bitter feeling of knowing that something inside you rules over you. Because the truth is more uncomfortable than any motivational advice. Addictions are not broken by strength. They are broken with awareness. And there is an ancient ritual that almost no one mentions today. Not because it's complicated, but because it's deeply uncomfortable. A ritual that doesn't require temples, gurus, or exotic ceremonies. It only demands something that most people avoid at all costs. Facing yourself with no escape. And that's why it became forbidden. Not because someone officially forbade it, but because in a culture obsessed with numbing pain, no one wants to practice something that reveals it. The lie that keeps any addiction alive. First, you have to understand something that almost no one says. An addiction never starts with a substance. It starts with an emotion. Boredom, emptiness, anxiety, loneliness. Pain that was never processed. The substance, the habit, or the behavior only appears later as a quick fix. Alcohol, marijuana, pornography, social media, food, shopping, work. It doesn't matter which one it is, the mechanism is the same. For a few minutes, the mind stops feeling what it was avoiding, and that's where the trap begins. Because the brain learns something very dangerous. It doesn't learn that the habit is good. It learns that it works as an escape. Each repetition reinforces an invisible pathway within the nervous system. And over time, you no longer use it for enjoyment. You use it so you don't feel. That's why breaking an addiction isn't just about quitting something. It's about stopping running away. And that's where the ritual comes in. The ritual that almost no one dares to do. This ritual is simple. So simple that the mind rejects it immediately. Because your brain isn't used to doing nothing. It's not trained to stay present in the face of desire. There's always action, movement, distraction. The next time you feel the urge to consume something, do nothing. Don't suppress it. Don't fight it with willpower. Don't replace it with another distraction. Just sit, breathe, deeply, slowly, and observe. No phone, no music, no screens, no notifications interrupting you, just you and the urge. At first, it will seem unbearable. The body becomes restless. You feel tingling, tension, anxiety rising from your stomach to your chest. The mind starts making up excuses, stories that justify running away, rationalize, escape. Just once, I'll start tomorrow. Today was a tough day. I deserve it. And that's where most people fail. Because what shows up in this moment isn't just desire. It's a whole story you've been carrying for years. It's your anxiety, your emptiness, your bottled up anger, your silent frustration. All of it concentrated in a moment that demands to be seen. But if you don't escape, if you stay there, breathing, observing, holding on, something surprising happens. The impulse begins to reveal its true nature. It's not a monster. It's not a tyrant that came to control you. It's a wave, sudden, intense, relentless. It pushes you, it shakes you. It feels like it's going to swallow you. But if you don't feed it, if you don't run, if you don't give in to avoidance, it starts to go down, it slowly disappears, as if it was never that big. The mind is surprised. The body calms down, and then something deeper emerges. A clarity that can only be reached when you stop reacting automatically. The ancient mystics knew about this process. In deep meditation traditions, they called it seeing the desire before it turns into action. It was an act of courage, an act of self-love, an act that separates those who seek only instant gratification from those who seek true freedom. Because once you see it clearly, once you hold it without running away, the urge loses much of its power. It no longer controls you. It no longer manipulates you. It's no longer an excuse to escape. You start to realize something crucial. The power was never in the substance, the screen, or the food. The power was in your lack of awareness. And when you observe, when you stop running away, that lack of awareness becomes awareness. And the freedom that seemed impossible begins to emerge, the true origin of addiction. Most people think the enemy is the habit, the cigarette, the alcohol, the phone, pornography, sugar, the screen you check for the 10th time without realizing it. But the habit is just the surface. It's the visible symptom of something much deeper. The real enemy is unconsciousness. That state in which you act without really being present, in which something inside you makes decisions before you show up. Because when an impulse arises and you react automatically, there is no choice, only programming. It's as if someone wrote a little script inside your mind years ago. A silent script that activates every time something specific happens. Stress consume, boredom consume, loneliness consume, anxiety consume. And the most unsettling thing is that most people don't even notice that process. They just feel the urge, and they follow it. Carl Jung put it in a way that's deeply unsettling. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Take a moment to reflect on that sentence. Because if you look at it honestly, it describes exactly how many addictions work. We think we choose. But in reality, we're reacting to mechanisms we learned years ago. Maybe when you were a teenager and you discovered that a certain substance calmed you down. Maybe when a difficult moment in your life led you to look for a quick way out. Maybe when your mind found an easy way to escape the emptiness. That moment left a mark. And the brain, which is always looking to save energy, decided on something very simple. When this happens again, do the same thing. Over time, that little shortcut becomes a well-paved road within your nervous system. Each repetition makes it stronger. Every time you react without observing, the pattern becomes more automatic, until it gets to a point where the urge seems to outrun you. It shows up and you're already doing it. You don't even remember when you decided to do it. That's what makes many people feel like their addiction is stronger than their willpower. Because they're not fighting against a simple habit. They're fighting against an unconscious program that's been running for years. And that program operates in the dark. That's exactly where addictions live. In patterns that act before you even realize it. In reactions that happen before you even notice. That's why this ritual is so powerful. Because it doesn't try to fight the habit directly. It does something much more radical. It turns on the light. It breaks the automatic pattern. It forces you to stop right at the moment when you would normally react without thinking. That almost invisible instant between the impulse and the action. That instant is everything. Because when you see it, something changes. For the first time, you observe the craving, as if it were a phenomenon that appears inside you. But it's not you. You feel the urgency, the pressure, the inner voice that says, do it now. But instead of obeying it immediately, you look at it, you follow it, you study it. And at that moment, something happens that most people never experience. You discover that the urge isn't as solid as it seemed. It's more like a wave. It rises with force. It increases. It seems impossible to resist. But if you don't react automatically, it starts to change. It loses intensity. It moves. It changes. Sometimes it even disappears. And that's when you understand something that can change your relationship with any addiction. The urge was never the real problem. The problem was not seeing it. Because when something acts in the dark, it has all the power. But when you see it with total clarity, it loses much of its control. That's the moment where most people fail. Here's where something interesting happens. When someone practices this ritual for the first time, they discover something they didn't expect. Because most people believe that the urge is the problem, that desire is the enemy. That addiction is simply an external force that suddenly appears and demands to be satisfied. But when you really stop, when you don't run toward your usual distraction, something starts to reveal itself. Underneath the urge, there are emotions. Anxiety, a subtle feeling of restlessness in the chest, as if something inside you was uncomfortable and didn't know where to settle. Sadness, a wave of nostalgia that appears without warning, a silent weight that maybe you've been avoiding for days, months, or years. Anger, that pent-up energy you never expressed, words you never said, situations you accepted when you actually wanted to scream. And then there's something even deeper, a feeling of emptiness, that inner silence that appears when there's no more stimulation to cover it up. It's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because suddenly you realize something that the addiction had been hiding for a long time. The habit wasn't there just for pleasure. It was there to cover something up. And it's exactly at that moment when most people give up. Because facing the craving was hard. But facing what the craving was hiding is much more challenging. It's the moment when your mind starts to negotiate with you. This isn't working. Maybe it's not the right time. Today has been a really tough day. I'll try again tomorrow. And almost without realizing it, the ritual is broken. The person goes back to the habit. Not because they're weak, but because for the first time they got too close to the root of the problem. Because the addiction was never the main problem. It was the numbing. A quick way to turn down the volume on emotions that seemed too intense to face head on. For a few minutes, alcohol calms, cigarettes distract. The screen entertains. The substance softens. But when you decide not to numb yourself, when you choose to observe instead of escape, the wound appears. And that's where something happens that almost no one expects. That moment that seems like a failure is actually the gateway to freedom. Because when the emotion finally appears in your awareness, it stops acting from the shadows. The anxiety you might feel can be understood. The sadness you can observe can be processed. The anger you recognize can be transformed. But what is constantly avoided never changes. It repeats itself. It disguises itself. It shifts to another habit, to another substance, to another distraction. That's why many people quit one addiction only to develop a different one. They change the object, but the mechanism remains intact because the emotion underneath was never truly heard. The ritual breaks that cycle. It forces you to stay a little longer than your mind considers comfortable, to remain present just when the impulse wants to push you toward the easy way out. And in that uncomfortable space, something completely new begins. For the first time, you're not reacting, you're observing. And when you honestly see what's really happening inside you, something deep begins to change, because what you feel can be transformed. But what you avoid always finds a way to repeat itself. Why is this ritual forbidden? Not because it's dangerous, not because it has something dark or mysterious that should be kept secret, but because, if you think about it calmly, this ritual destroys a gigantic business, a business that generates billions every day. Modern economy doesn't just sell products. It sells impulses. It sells distractions. It sells small bursts of pleasure designed to make you come back again and again. Apps designed to hook you. It's not a coincidence. Entire teams of psychologists and behavioral scientists work every day to figure out how to capture your attention and how to keep it trapped for as long as possible. Notifications, variable rewards, infinite scroll. Every little detail is calculated to trigger exactly the same reward circuit that many addictions use. The same thing happens with food, products designed to overstimulate the palate. Sugar, fat, salt, in almost perfect proportions, so your brain says, I want more. Not because you're hungry, but because the stimulus is too intense to ignore. Entertainment is no different. Series that end on cliffhangers, videos that start playing by themselves, algorithms that know exactly what to show you next, a constant stream of stimuli so you never have to face silence. Everything is competing for the same thing, your attention. And more importantly, your impulses. Because a human being who acts on impulse is predictable. They can be influenced, they can be guided, they can be turned into a consumer. But something very different happens when a person learns to pause. When desire appears, and instead of obeying it immediately, he observes it. That small gesture changes everything because it breaks the automatic reflex. It breaks the mechanism that turns stimulus into action. And when someone learns to observe their desire before obeying it, they become much harder to manipulate. Suddenly, notifications lose their urgency. Temptations lose their strength. Impulses no longer dictate every decision, and that's not convenient for many systems. An individual who doesn't react automatically consumes less compulsively. He buys more consciously. He chooses more calmly. He doesn't follow every trend. He doesn't respond to every stimulus. And even though no one says it openly, a mind like that is less profitable. That's why no one teaches this ritual at school. In most educational systems, they teach you to memorize information, repeat procedures, and stick to schedules. But something much more fundamental is rarely taught. How to observe what happens inside your own mind, how to recognize an impulse, how to hold an emotion without running away, how to create a space between desire and action. Because a mind that learns to observe itself begins to change its relationship with everything, with consumption, with habits, with time, with one's own life. He no longer reacts the same. He starts to notice patterns. He starts to question impulses. He starts to see when something comes from fear, from emptiness, or from simple conditioning. And when that level of awareness appears, something very simple but very powerful happens. The person stops acting purely out of reaction. He starts to choose. And even though it may seem like a small change, it's actually one of the most radical acts a human being can do in a world designed for you to react without thinking. The paradox of freedom. When you practice this repeatedly, something changes. The impulses still show up, but they no longer feel like orders. They feel like signals. And then you discover something curious. Many times the desire disappears when you simply look at it. Other times it's still there, but it no longer has the same power. It's like watching a magic trick. After you discover the mechanism, the illusion loses its strength. But listen, I know how you feel when the urge grabs you, when anxiety won't let you sleep and your mind feels like a whirlwind that won't stop. Now imagine someone walking with you, whispering the guidance your mind can't find. That's Audible. 30 days free audiobooks that grab you right where it hurts and show you a way. The link is in the description. Jump in, listen, and let someone remind you that you don't have to fight alone. The step that almost no one takes. This is where the ritual becomes truly transformative. After observing the urge, ask yourself just one question. What am I avoiding feeling right now? The answer is rarely comfortable. Maybe it's tiredness, maybe loneliness, maybe fear. But when you recognize it, craving starts to lose its function because you no longer need to numb yourself. If you're willing to feel the truth that no one wants to hear, breaking an addiction is not a battle against something external. It's a process of radical honesty with yourself. Most people want to eliminate the symptom without looking at the cause. But addictions are messengers. They point to places in your life where something needs attention. Ignoring the message only makes the messenger shout louder. Listening to it can change everything. If you made it this far, comment this without overthinking it. Observe before reacting. It's not just a nice phrase, it's a practice. If you really apply it, even just once a day, you'll start to notice something strange. Your impulses don't disappear, but you're no longer the same when facing them. Something important you need to understand. This ritual is not magic. It doesn't eliminate all desires overnight, but it does something deeper. It gives you back the space between stimulus and response. That little space is where freedom lives, and most people never discover it. Addictions thrive in unawareness, on autopilot, in mindless repetition. But when you stop, breathe, and observe what is happening inside you, something changes. The urge stops being an order. It becomes a signal. And that's where something begins that many people spend their whole lives searching for. The ability to choose. Because true freedom is not about having no desires. It's not being a slave to them. And if this video made you see something that used to go unnoticed, leave me a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which part made you reflect the most. Because sometimes a single idea at the right moment can break a pattern that has been repeating for years. And if you want to keep exploring how the mind really works and why our habits have so much power over us, I recommend the next video on screen. Believe me, after watching it, you'll understand many things that seemed simple before, but never really were.